Well, this is a very unexpected video. And it's a little bit of a departure or a crossover from some of the things that I've done in recent history, but I've been in RC Helis for a while. So my most recent videos have mostly had to do with VR, my big screen beyond, my sim rig and what I'm building. And this is sort of related because I do have an AccuRC plug for my computer with a receiver that binds to my Jedi controller so I can play, or practice I should say, with the flight sim in VR, which is great. I can use some practice. So what makes this a very surprising video is if you had told me I was going to make this 2 weeks ago, I would have laughed. I had just seen a post that I had made a year ago saying it had been 5 years since I've flown. Maybe I should call it quits. And somebody replied to it, and it was 6 years. And something snapped, and I went, okay, everything's got to go. It's time to sell this. I just don't, I'm not in the hobby anymore, right? So I started doing a deep dive into things, and it started rekindling some interest, and there's a lot of, I got into this pretty deep, so I'm going to give it another go. But why I fell away from it isn't too terribly surprising. In about 2017, November, very end of the year, I got an Oculus Rift. And I started to put together a sim rig. And then I lost a little interest in that for a while. And I flew a little bit more. And then the last time that I flew, which was September 29th of 2018, came and went. And about 3 months later, I started putting together a serious sim rig. And I started a build thread that's been going since February of 2019. And my rig has evolved a lot over the years and had pretty much taken all my focus away from RC helicopters. And I mean, I started out with a basic wood rig, got moved into profile, moved into full motion. Anyway, lot of things happened there. So what I thought I was going to do with this video is kind of explain what my plans are in the hobby and how I see RC helicopters. And I see it as being kind of a bubble. Now, to people who've been in the hobby for a long time that predated when I got in, they may see it as, you know, it was a blip and it came back. But I thought I'd put a little perspective on it from where I came into this. So my RC experience started in 2006. I had a friend here at a local airfield who I'd gone out and seen him flying, and it looked like it was fun. And they had a basic plane kit that they passed around. It was a very simple Nitro plane with a little 4-channel transmitter, and I was able to bring that to the airfield. Somebody would be gracious enough to pump some fuel into it, get it started, and then I had a, you know, more seasoned pilot would buddy box with me, and I could fly it around and so forth. I did that for a little while, and then I lost interest. The airplanes just weren't interesting enough for me, and I hated the Nitro. I know some people love it. I'm not trying to throw any shade on people who love their Nitro birds, but I didn't like the smoke. I didn't like the fine-tuning of the carburetor. I didn't like the mess of the fuel. I just didn't like it at all. So in 2006, I put it all down. So then I kind of forgot about it for a while. And in the background, some things were changing. And I'm going to use the Hensel TDR kind of as a tool to explain this. So in 2009, so, you know, it had been a few years, 3 years since I'd been out, Jen Hensel had introduced this helicopter. And what was interesting about it, it was the first exclusively flybarless controller helicopter on the market. So there was no way to put a mechanical flybar on it. It was also all electric. And previous to that, he had had Nitro helicopters. So this was all electric. And so in 2009, things were changing. I mean, this was at the front end, but the Hensel TDR typically had a long waiting list, 6-9 months or longer, and it wasn't inexpensive. And so this was kind of an eclectic bird. There weren't that many people who had the TDR, but it's a beautiful helicopter that I still love today. So, so all this is going on, and I'm thinking, well, around 2011, when I got into it, just before that, I saw some videos on YouTube, and they showed some electric helicopters. And I was thinking, oh, wow, you can actually get into something that's pretty big and it'd be full electric, no nitro fuel. And I completely missed flybars. So for people who made the transition, I kind of jumped over that. When I jumped in 2011, I think the bubble had started probably a year or so, maybe a year or two before I got into it, as people were transitioning from the from nitro to electric, from flybars to flybarless. In the meantime, when the TDR came out, I think it was being designed around the Mikado V-bar, which I think hadn't even been introduced when the helicopter was being designed. So really cool stuff. By 2011, flybarless was everywhere. In fact, I was able to get a tiny blade MCPX micro, and it was flybarless. Just, amazing. So I got my first helicopter, an Align Trex 550. And of course it was electric, and it was flybarless, and I was using a Skookum SK720, which had been available for a little while when I hit the scene in 2011. So I had auto level, where if I got into trouble, I could pick up my transmitter, hit a button, give it a little collective, and it would flip the helicopter upright, make it level, and I could get out of trouble, figure out what I'd been doing wrong, and recover from it. So very cool features. And I think all this led to what I saw as a bubble, because when I got in 2011, it was already started up. There was a lot of excitement. There were new helicopters being designed, more powerful motors, bigger batteries, more powerful ESCs. When I got into it, I went the easy route with the Contronics. They're a little pricey, but the helicopters were a lot of fun. They would, when you turned it on, it would have a nice smooth spool up. The head speed holding capabilities were excellent. So the Nitro people that I knew, they had governors on their motors, and they would mention, that you had to fly a little more smoothly with a Nitro than you could with an electric, because an electric, like the electric cars, they've got all that torque available to them, and the ESC could just dump current into the motor and hold head speeds very accurately. So I got into the hobby, with all of that behind me, and it seemed like there was just a huge upsurge. So I'm building and learning and simming and getting there. And in 2013, I go out to IRCHA. 2013 was a big year there. I packed up my tent and table and 2-kilowatt generator and my charger and my helicopters. And a couple friends flew in and met me there, and we had a great time. So we got all set up at the airfield there, and it was a great experience. I got to see some of the best pilots out flying, got to see speed competition. Anyway, I had a really, really good time. And like I said, everything was on the upsurge. In fact, I met Jeff Dunham there in 2013. I have a picture of me shaking his hand, and he was representing Blade helicopters. And Blade had decided to go from their small little micros out to full 700 series helicopters, which was kind of a short-lived thing. But there were a lot of people at IRCHA in 2013. I think it was around 1,000 or so, 1,100 maybe. And then I took a year off. And a couple more years passed out. So in 2015, I went out again. And by 2015, IRCHA was a mob scene. There was like 1,400 or so pilots that showed up. There were massive booths. And what's interesting is that I went out, and in the course of about 2 hours, I managed to crash both of these helicopters. smash. But the cool thing was, there was a huge Ready Heli tent, there was a Mikado USA tent, I was able to get all the parts I needed to get my helicopters flying again right on site, and very, very cool stuff. So anyway, so the whole industry around RC helicopters was getting, massive. In fact, in 2015, I got a picture I'll show it of me holding a Velos, I think it's an 880. It's a massive helicopter that had 2 motors in it to drive it, just huge. And it's very, very, very cool. So I had to check that out. And in 2015, Jan Hensel was there with his people, and they dominated the speed flying competition. They had the TDR2 and TDS on display, but they weren't shipping it. I didn't get this again until 2016. So just everything's exploding. So lots of flybarless controllers, really cool things. So I come back in 2016, and things are starting to calm down a little bit. When I got out there, there were like 700-800 pilots instead of 1,400. I mean, a lot less people showed up. There was no Ready Heli store or Mikado USA. Basically, if you crashed a heli, if you didn't have parts for it, you were done. Now, there was a lot more room at the flight line, so you could fly. I got some great flights in with my TDR. And there was a little innovation still going on in 2016. I got to get some VTX blades. I got one set for my TDR and a set for the Protos Max, and I love these blades. They had great pop, and I think this is kind of the, I think we hit peak blade design with these. Now, there were other helicopter blades that are more specialty for some things, like the speed blades. These are very stable. They're weighted stable. I don't remember the exact where they changed the CG of it, but they adjusted them so that they're much easier to fly in a straight line. So great for speed flying, not so great for 3D. So lots going on, and like I said, very exciting time. So I come back in 2016, and like I said, things are starting to drop down. And I also saw something else that is very typical of an industry that's in decline. So there's a huge upsurge in electrics and flybarless and all of that technology when I got in 2011 and 2013 and so forth, 2015. And then the market started to drop. And as is frequently the case, you'll see people going, oh, well, it's been a while since people had nitros, and a lot of the aircraft, a lot of the companies were not selling nitros anymore. So they started to reintroduce nitros. And that's something that like I said, it's kind of like people going back to vinyl. Nothing against people who enjoy vinyl, but I felt like I was getting fogged out by all the people with their nitro helicopters. So I'm not a nitro fan, like I said, but that's the last IRCHA that I went to. I had some fun there. I did enjoy flying. Great group of people. Met Romeo Oscar, who took a picture of me holding my TDR. Fun stuff. But I hadn't been back. And then, as I mentioned, I kind of had a transition, a couple years later, getting into VR and the sim rigs and all of that. So now I'm back. And I'm pretty excited about it. I'm going to do some other videos too. So this is more just here's how I view the industry. And I was there as it was ramping up on this bubble, and I got to enjoy it and see all the innovation and all the excitement, and then I got to watch it slow down. I'm kind of fortunate. I've got 3 of my helicopters that I really like are German. The Logo 550 and the 2 TDRs, the TDR and the TDR2, and I can get parts for both of those. They don't sell new kits, but parts are still available. Every part that I need, from what I can tell, is still readily available. I can't get any more VTX blades. I've still got a couple pair of 697s for my TDR. I might try these out on the TDR2 if I ever set it up for something besides speed flying. And I picked up a couple more since they're discontinued for the Logo 550, just because I'm a big fan. So I've ordered some batteries for my smaller helicopters, and I'm going to start spending more time in VR simming and building up my muscle memory and getting my skills back. And then I'm going to head out to the airfield, and if I start feeling comfortable with it, I'll start getting the the bigger packs for my TDR2 and the TDR. Now, I'm pretty happy with my fleet as it is. There's only one helicopter in this fleet that I consider a mistake, but not because it's a bad helicopter, it's just not a good match for me. When I went out for IRCHA in 2016, I had built my Protos Max, and the reason I got the Protos Max was because I thought I was going to get into SMAC 3D flight, and quite frankly, I enjoy slower head speeds and slow 3D. I find it more relaxing and fun. I just don't have the skills for SMAC 3D, and I never got into it. But I got the Protos Max thinking this would be a perfect helicopter to crash. Not that you ever want to crash a helicopter, but when it happens, this design is just amazingly simple. It's got 2 screws to hold the landing gear on. The whole battery cage is just a single piece. So if you plow this in and it comes down hard and smashes the landing gear in this, you just have to unscrew the bottom of the CF frames, put a new one in, pop your landing gear on, and you're good. You'll probably need a new boom and blades and so forth, but it appeared the Protos Max was something I could rebuild in about an hour, which, that would be perfect if I was going to, go that route. And for what it's worth, I kind of feel that way with a little Protos 500. I can get this together in less than an hour. It's really easy to get it back to being smooth as silk after a crash. So this poor little thing has been in the dirt many, many times, but it still flies really well and it's still very smooth. So I really like that helicopter. It's a great beater. It's got a serpentine belt, so there's no gear mesh. You just set the tension of the belt and off you go. Which also means in a crash, the only thing you get to deal with, you've got your main shaft and your feathering shaft and your bearings. And sometimes, in a rare occasion, the main gear gets munched, and your booms and blades. But it goes together very quickly. At any rate, so this video is kind of a, oh my God, I'm back in this hobby again. And just an idea of what I see as the history. So right now, like I said, I can get parts for my helicopters, which means if I crash them, I can put them back together. Now, the Protos are a slightly different situation. They're both originally Italian manufactured. What happened is they sold the IP to all the MSH helicopters to a company called XL Power. And they still have parts for my little Protos 500. They're all marked clearance, but they're still available. And they've got a very similar kit available now with a slightly different name. So I still like the form factor, and it seems they kept the main selling points of this intact. So it's likely I would keep this size helicopter going in that regard. The Protos Max I'm going to part ways with just because I don't fly it. It was built perfectly for a task that it turned out I wasn't interested in pursuing. So I'm gonna pull it apart, sell the airframe with the original X-Nova motor, and and I think that'll be it. I don't think I need any more helicopters. I'm real happy with my fleet the way it is. There's some great stuff in here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna attempt to do some additional videos. And so what I wanna do, I want to have one video where I kind of go through my fleet and explain what they all are, and they're all very different. They've got different drivetrains, they fly differently, and they all have their pros and cons. And I think that'll be kind of interesting to go through, and why I settled on the ones I have and where they are. And then I was thinking of maybe doing a short series of videos on the various technologies involved in getting an RC helicopter in the air. So, between your simulators and your flyballer's controllers and your transmitters and your charging systems and telemetry, and just there's a whole lot of really cool technology. There's a lot of interesting tools that I've picked up over the years. And I think it might be entertaining to some just to see all of this stuff from somebody who kind of got into it hard. I'm not saying I'm the only one who's done this. There are many people who are heavily into RC helis, and there are people who have enormous fleets that make this look like a very paltry number of helicopters. I've seen people with just massive fleets of helicopters. So I'm not trying to brag that I've got more than anyone in any of this stuff, but I do think it'll be interesting to go through. I also still have an original Hensel TDR kit in the box and a couple canopies for it. And I don't know if I'll ever build it. I've sort of cannibalized and replaced the parts over the years to keep my TDR flying, just to know I always had everything. And then I'd use parts down, and then I'd reorder everything to keep the kit full. It's been an interesting time. And I've got a few other things that I never finished. So here's my carbon fiber canopy for my TDR2. I never even put vinyl on it. So anyway, I don't know if I'll be heading out to IRCHA anytime soon. I won't be heading out this year, but maybe next year if I'm back guns a-blazing. We'll see what happens. So anyway, that's all for now. Thanks.